Alright Reds, this is Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index, and this is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. What's something you'd always wanted to learn? Remember back when you were a kid, always curious, always discovering something new. Now think about this, as an adult, do you still spark that joy of learning new things? Whether it's gardening, picking up a new language, or maybe mastering bowling to outshine your best friend, it's essential to keep that spirit alive. And guess what? Therapy can be a fantastic way to reconnect with your inner student, your sense of wonder. Because truly, the back-to-school vibe isn't just for kids or young adults, it's for everyone at any stage of life. Now, I haven't used BetterHelp myself, but I've seen firsthand how therapy can dramatically shift perspectives. It's not just about heavy issues, it's about enhancing your everyday life, learning to cope better with daily stress, setting healthy boundaries, and empowering yourself to be the best version of yourself. It's a space where anyone can benefit from a little extra insight and support. So why BetterHelp? Well, it's therapy that fully adapts to your timetable, and it's all online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and they'll match you with a therapist. And if you feel the need to change therapists, you can switch anytime without an extra charge. How's that for flexibility? With over 5,000 therapists in the UK, BetterHelp offers a wide variety of specialists ready to help you rediscover your curiosity and tackle new challenges. Visit betterhelp.com/index today. There's a bonus. Get 10% off your first month. Remember, that's betterhelp.com/index. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp and keep on learning no matter where you are on life's journey.
This episode is brought to you by Microsoft Azure. Turn your ideas into reality with an Azure free account. Get everything you need to develop apps across cloud and hybrid environments, scale workloads, create cloud-connected mobile experiences, and so much more. Discover what you can create with popular services free for 12 months. Learn more at azure.com. That's AZURE.com. And sign up for a free account to start building in the cloud today.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
Oh, I am absolutely flying, mate. How are you?
I think I'm better than you, I think. I haven't had to visit the doctor today, so I think that's 1-0 to me. We are here today to discuss Liverpool's upcoming game, which is against Nottingham Forest at Anfield. And, Karl, we talked about the midfield quality that we've faced thus far this year, because the midfield was one of the big concerns everybody had coming into the season. We have performed very well in the midfield area, but obviously Ipswich, Brentford and United, not exactly the biggest tests. Forest, I think, would have potentially been a tricky one if Daniil was fit, but obviously he's out now for the long term with a shattered ankle. This is another game where it feels like we should be able to dominate play, give ourselves a base to build from, and that will in turn lead to, I think, plenty of chance creation.
Yeah, I would think so. I think it's one we'll definitely look to dominate in. I mean, we're at home. We've started pretty well in terms of, aside from the Ipswich game, I think having a little bit of what's the word? Not tempo to our game, but sort of instinct, initiation to actually take the game a bit more intent than we did at times last season. Not always just to attack from the first whistle, because that's not really what this team is about now. But just having that intent to dominate and to control where the game is played. I think even with United starting quite quickly, we still more or less told them where they were going to be allowed to play. I think that's a big thing. That's a big improvement from last season. That is going to make a difference, and already is making a difference because we haven't conceded a goal yet. I would expect that to be very, very similar again here. I mean, I think the big difference to, let's say, United or Ipswich is that the midfield we're going to face this time is likely to be a really energetic one, which is not something I would usually use to describe Man United's midfield in particular. But Elliot Anderson, presumably Ibrahim Sangare will start, and even Gibbs White dropping back in. Real athleticism between the three of them, good stamina rates, fairly good power, I would say, as well, even though Anderson's not like a massive guy. He certainly puts himself about enough with the work rate and the intensity that he has in challenges, closing down, pressing back, all that sort of stuff. So it is going to be a different midfield, I think, that we face, a midfield test, I should say. But again, formation-wise, you're probably looking at double pivot matching up with on and off double pivot for us. Technically, it's reasonable to say that we have the upper hand there. You'd like to think that Liverpool will again control, therefore, where a lot of this match is played.
Yeah, and I think managerial philosophies come into play here as well. And, you know, Nuno is not a new manager to the Premier League by any stretch. Obviously, had that spell at Wolves, the failed spell at Spurs, and has been at Palace or at Forest now since, I think, December. And we know what he's about. Like, we know that when his teams face the big teams, he's quite happy to cede possession and try to play more as a counter-attacking team. Whether they have enough of a threat as a counter-attacking team remains to be seen, but they've got quality on the wings. And they've got some game-changing players. And, you know, when we look at the midfield, I think you're definitely right to say we will have more quality than them. But I do think, like, the midfield you laid out, Sangare and Anderson maybe as the double pivot with Gibbs White ahead of them, individually, it's a very good midfield. Like, I think Gibbs White is an outrageously good player. I think Elliot Anderson, they definitely overpaid a little bit based on what he's done in the game. But I think when you kind of project out what he can be, I do think he's a very promising young player, only 21. And Sangare, I mean, he's an odd player. There's games you watch him and you think he could play for us. And then there's games you watch him and you think, how is he a footballer? Now, the majority of games, he's just a very solid player. But he does have this fluctuation where sometimes he will just throw in an absolute rotter of a game. They do have Ward-Prowse, they do have Nicholas Dominguez, and they do have Ryan Yates in terms of depth, and that's even with the Neo out injured. So this is a good midfield group that they've put together. Like, they've got a little bit of everything for those three midfield roles. And I was looking at the Forest squad, and obviously this is year 3 in the Premier League for them after promotion. And when you look at the squad that they've put together, the midfield has improved significantly since year 1, where they were rolling out the likes of John Joe Shelby, Jack Colback was there, Jesse Lingard, Czech Kwiatu, Remu Freuler was having a failed spell at the club. They had Gustav Scarpa, they had Oral Mangala, who's now at Everton on loan. They did have Ryan Yates, they did have Gibbs White, but I think the midfield group has improved significantly, and that brought me to looking at the rest of the squad with them. I think the forward line has improved hugely as well. They still have Awoniyi, they still have Chris Wood, who joined in the middle of that first season. I do have some concerns for them about whether there's enough goals in the squad. But, you know, Emmanuel Dennis is still there as well. But they've added Anthony Elanga, who I think is massively underrated. I think United made a massive mistake in letting him go. They brought in Ramon Sosa in the summer transfer window. He looks a good player. Jota Silva's there. He looks a decent player. And Callum Hudson-Odoi is on somewhat of a redemption tour, having, you know, come through at Chelsea, lots of hype, incredible talent, tears his Achilles, never quite gets back into favour. And that's after Chelsea turning down huge bids for him from Bayern and from other clubs. So the attack has definitely improved as well. And I think when you look at the defence, that's where probably the biggest improvement has come. You've got the likes of Murillo, Omabamidele, Morata now, Milinkovic now, Ola Aina now. They've got Nico Williams. They've got Alex Moreno. Like, it's a good group of defensive players. It's just a matter now for the manager of finding a 4-man group or a 3-man group if he wants to play the 3-4-3, play the Wolves. That works. But I do think when you look defence, midfield, attack, they have made consistent gains in each area and improved each area. However, I think you'll agree with me on this. One of the most important things you have to have in the Premier League, particularly if you're in the bottom half, is a really reliable goalkeeper. In their first year back, they had Dean Henderson and Keylor Navas as the goalkeepers, and now they have Matt Sells, who doesn't look great, and Carlos Miguel, who is enormous, but nobody knows a whole lot about and is completely unproven at this level. That's the big area of weakness for them. Like, I think they can compete in terms of the outfield. I think they've got a good enough 10-man outfield group that you could look at them and see a path for them to finish 12th to 14th. But then you look at the goalkeeper and you just think, well, that's going to cost them over the course of the season, which is why they were trying to buy Queven Callagher near the deadline.
We might as well start there then, and we'll work backwards with the stuff you've just said. Are you not surprised they didn't go harder for him? Or at least didn't, make sure that they got a deal done?
Very surprised. Very, very surprised, to be honest. And more surprised at how insulting the offer was.
I read various reports of that. What was the sort of outcome? Because that was done while I was obviously away at wedding number 1.
It seems like they made 2 offers. One was a cash offer that wasn't what we were looking for. And the second was £7 million and Matt Turner, who's dreadful. Well, he's not dreadful, but he's not anywhere close to the standard that we would require.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Say to that, they offered us Matt Turner?
Yes, Matt Turner and £7 million. Now, they paid £10 million for Matt Turner 12 months ago. So they might have viewed that today. Yeah, I mean, it's just not a good offer at all, and by all accounts was dismissed without even the slightest bit of consideration. So that was the offer, and apparently Liverpool thought they might come back, but then they didn't. So I don't know what to make of them in the summer in terms of what they did. Like, they do the Remu Freuler for Dominguez completion of the swap deal. They sell Vlachodimos to Newcastle. Apparently got a good fee. Who knows? Brandon Aguilar left. They completed the Oral Mangala sale. He'd gone in January on a loan with an obligation. They sell Musa Niakate. They sell Joe Worrell. They sell Wang. They bring in Marco Stamenic, Eric Da Silva Moreira, who's a young right back, Elliot Anderson, who they overpaid for, but it was an opportunistic thing because Newcastle needed the money. Carlos Miguel, Nikola Milinkovic, I really like the signing of. Like, I think that's an excellent bit of business at 12 million. Jota Silva is an interesting gamble to take. Ramon Sosa is an interesting gamble to take. They signed David Carmo from Porto and then loan him immediately to Olympiacos, who are obviously owned by the same individual. And then they signed Morata from Benfica. Now, what those last two deals tell me is that they think Murillo's maybe going to leave after this season, because that's two left-footed centre-backs. Now, it could just be that they're planning to move to a back three, and they want to have extra bodies, and they view these two as the best two they could get long-term. I think Carmel's a big, big talent, though hasn't quite been right since the ankle break. Morata's very good. But you didn't really address the two biggest issues you had. You didn't sort a reliable goal scorer. You tried. They had bids in for everybody. Tried to sign Santiago Jimenez. Tried to sign Pavlidis, who went to Benfica. Tried to sign Eddie Nketiah, but ultimately didn't get that done. And then didn't get the goalkeeper you clearly needed, because while Carlos Miguel might be talented, he's coming straight from Brazil. He's unproven at the highest level. He doesn't have a huge track record behind him in Brazil either. Like, he's only played 34 career games. So I don't know what to make of him. He's got 25 games in the Brazilian Serie A, 8 in the lower leagues of Brazil, and then one game for Forest in the Cup. And as Guy pointed out, they did try to sign Johan Visa, which was just really odd because he's a totally different type of player. And he's not a 9 for starters, but he's also totally different to Nketiah, who was totally different to Jimenez. So I don't really know what the plan was, other than the fact that they got some good centre-backs in.
Attention parents and grandparents. Is your child struggling to ride a bike or ready to start? Meet Guardian Bikes, the easiest, safest, and quickest bikes for kids to learn on. Kids are learning to ride in just one day, no training wheels needed. What sets Guardian Bikes apart? Designed especially for stability, they're low to the ground with a wide wheelbase and ultra-lightweight frames, offering superior control and balance. This design gives young riders the ability to learn in just one day without tears or frustration. Guardian Bikes are the only kids' bikes designed and assembled in a USA factory, ensuring top-notch quality and durability. They were also featured on Shark Tank and are the New York Times Wirecutter Top Kids Bike Pick for 2024. Join the hundreds of thousands of happy families by getting a Guardian Bike today. Visit GuardianBikes.com to save up to 25% off bikes, no code needed. Plus, receive a free bike lock and pump with your first purchase after signing up for the newsletter. That's GuardianBikes.com. Happy riding.
Yeah, I mean, the forward chase was bizarre, basically. There was a couple of other names that were thrown around there towards the end of the window as well, I remember. And there was just no continuity, no similarity between the types of them. And yeah, I do kind of like the attacking options that Forest have. Like you mentioned Elanga there. We can go back to those sort of attack and support players now. I think they're really good. Like, if you've got Elanga, Gibbs White, and Hudson-Odoi playing at the top of their game and playing regularly, if you could have all three of those starting, let's say, 30 matches or something across the season, that's brilliant. That's really, really good. That's top half quality. There's potential for at least one, if not two of those, excuse me, to be, let's say, top 5, top 6 quality. They could get up beyond that, but definitely top 6. But you do need somebody ahead of them to sort of obviously put in most of the chances, or at the very least to be the foil that they can play off, to create the spaces for them, to occupy defences for them, to let them work their magic. And to be fair, we have to acknowledge that Chris Wood has done that at the start of this season, but it's a handful of games. He had a reasonable campaign last time around, but it's very, very difficult to expect him to do that and then exceed that again and still produce it on a consistent basis for 9-10 months. Doesn't look like a 1 year's quite worked out as well as they wanted him to.
No.
But again, Wood, no European football, if you're sort of ignoring the cups a little bit, can he do it for 30 games in the season? There's a possibility at the very least.
Oh, there is. I mean, look, Chris Wood is a good player. There's no question. He's been in the Premier League now a long time. And when you look at what he did when he was at Burnley, in the Premier League, 10 and 24, 10 and 38, 14 and 32, 12 in 33. That's the 4 full seasons he had at Burnley. And last season with Forest, he scores 14 in 31. So he's a proven goal scorer if you're looking for 10 to 14 a season. That's what he will give you in the Premier League. But like you said, the 3 behind it, Alanga, Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi, that's absolutely top half quality. And I think Sangaré and Danilo as a double pivot is top half quality. And I do think there's a 4-man defence you could put together with, let's just say it's Omar Bamadeli right back, Milinkovic right side centre back, Murillo left side centre back, and say Alex Moreno at left back. It's not great. Or Ola Aina at left back even. Like, I feel like that's somewhere between 9th and 12th. Maybe a little bit better if everything goes well for them. But I don't think you can get top half or top 8, say, if you don't have a really reliable goalkeeper and someone that's going to get you close to 20 goals. Like, the only team that's really done it that I can think of off the top of my head is Brighton. Because even like when West Ham have done it, they had Bowen scoring a lot. Everyone else has that player that gets them those goals. They just don't. They have a guy that'll get them a decent amount, but ultimately, is that going to be enough? And when you look at last season and who got the goals for them in the Premier League, Wood got 14, Hudson-Odoi got 8, which was a really good return given he started 20 games. Gibbs-White got 5, Awani got 6, and Alanga got 5. Nobody else scored more than 2. If you could parachute in a 20-goal-a-season player on top of that, even swapping out Awani, which is probably what they'd have to do, and maybe Anderson adds goals to that, and we see more from Alanga, more from Gibbs-White, more from Hudson-Odoi, all of a sudden that attack really does become a top half quality attack. The midfield is top half quality. That defence will give you at least a solid base of 9th to 12th, and the rest can take you over the top. Like, they're not a million miles away, I don't think, from being a top half team. And for all the mockery they've faced in recent years for how scattergun some of their approach has been in the transfer market, I do look at the squad and think considerably better defensively, considerably better midfield, considerably better up for, in the attack in general. But you need that 9 and you need that goalkeeper. And if you don't get them, I don't know where you're going to go. And I don't like the manager, I have to say.
I mean, stylistically, no, he's never going to be my favourite. And his setup is not generally a forward-thinking one. I think he's all right for where Forest are at the minute, to be fair. Because, he has had spells at Wolves. I completely forget about him being at Tottenham. It was such a ridiculous scenario that he was there in the first place. Let's just scrub that one from the memory books, I think. I think for Forest at the minute, it's probably quite important that they have some sort of settled time. Like, it was very, very turbulent with the turnover of players for that first couple of years, and obviously now still quite a lot of business being done. I think that if they just had a different goalkeeper, they'd be in a really good spot. Like, even, I know what you're saying about the forward, but there's options to get around that, isn't there? If you have a very, very mean defence, if you're really well set up, if you have options to have, flying fullbacks, go back to a back 3, whatever it is, you can get around matches and find enough wins and really progress as a club. But you do need a decent goalkeeper. We see that all the way through the league at every single objective you want to achieve. If you haven't got a good goalkeeper, it's unlikely you're going to achieve it. That comes down to very fine margins at times. So, assuming they do get that done, I do see quite a lot of upside for this Forest squad at the minute, I must be honest. But a big part of that, in turn, is going to be of how long they keep certain ones of these players together. Like, if we take just that front 3 or attacking 3, Alanga, 22, Hudson-Odoi 23, Gibbs-White 24. Would you expect one of those gets taken if they have a good year next year? Could they afford to say no to selling two of them?
Well, Newcastle apparently have considerable interest in Anthony Elanga, who I think would fit very well on the right for them, and obviously has that international link up with Isak. And if you look at an Elanga, Isak, Anthony Gordon front three, that I think would make a lot of sense for the Toon, given how they play. I think Gibbs White could play for pretty much everybody. I think he's that talented. Like, I could see him playing that left-sided role for us as a playmaking left-side 10 hybrid type. Could see him playing as the 10 for us. I think he's excellent. Like, if you told me I could have Eberechi Eze for 65 million, I think I'd call Forest first and see if I could get Gibbs White for less, because I think he's as good, just hasn't, I don't think, gotten the recognition as yet. And Hudson-Odoi, I mean, look, it's only 3-4 years since everybody was talking him up as like a nailed-on England starter. Like, everybody thought this is him and it's funny, him and Sancho were the two everybody was looking at and thinking, well, that's England's wingers sorted. They don't need, nobody else has a chance. It's going to be those two. And now, obviously, Gordon's come along and he's getting regular minutes. But Bukayo Saka is the one that's really just taken a spot and made it his own. I think there's an immense amount of talent with Hudson-Odoi. I think maybe it's just tapping into it. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if we're, at this point next season, talking about the fact that they've lost two of the three of them.
Yeah, totally. I think,
and I think there's others in that squad that will, like, I think Murillo will probably leave after this season as well. And if Danilo comes back from the ankle injury and does really well, I could see a world in where he moves on, because I think he is absolutely top 4 quality.
Yeah, quite a few of them, to be fair. And they're probably going to need that, if we're being honest. They'll need to sell one to bring in a few more, because they have had such high turnover. It's not the fact that all of them have obviously netted them profit when they sell them on. There's been a lot of, not wastage, but definitely spending to improve bit by bit. It's just they've done it in such wild circumstances, such dramatic numbers that can add up quite a bit, and depending on, the sort of fees that they might get for an Elanga or a Gibbs White, still somehow feels that those two might be the bigger money ones rather than Hudson-Odoi, just because of maybe his injuries. And the fact they got him so cheap, though, they might be able to let Hudson-Odoi go for a bit less than the others if and when they decide that that's time. But look, at the start of this season, in terms of Liverpool playing against them and who is going to be the bigger dangers there and so on, I think Gibbs White is still the big standout at the minute. Like, he's been the main man there for probably 18 months now. It was a massive money move when he went from Wolves to Forest, but I think it was probably partway through the first season he really started to be a bit more consistent. But last year, I just thought he was excellent. Like, he was a proper leader of that team, as well as a very good player from a technical perspective. Like, playing deeper in midfield in the double pivot, he was dragging the team upfield when they were desperate for points. Chance creation, he was the one. And this season, at the start, it's only a small sample size, obviously, but he's getting a lot more shooting chances at the minute as well. So more growth to come in his game. Obviously, he's spoken quite openly about he thinks he's good enough to be European football, international football, all the rest of it. He's very, very much the key man for them and the danger man for opponents.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's a funny one, because when he broke through at Wolves, like, a lot of top clubs started to sniff around because he had outrageous talent on the ball, and then he kind of stagnated quite badly for a couple of seasons. But he went on loan to Sheffield United and was tremendous for them. Him and Iliman Ndiaye in link together were just excellent. I was actually a little bit surprised that Forest didn't go and get Ndiaye. I know he's not a 9, but I did think if you got him and played him as the 9 with his link-up play and his ability to drag defenders into spaces they don't want to be in and create openings for the likes of Elanga, the likes of Gibbs-White to drive into, almost playing like a false nine. With that existing relationship he had with Gibbs-White, I thought that would have been a move that would have made sense for them. Then he goes to Forest, and it was 25 million at add-ons rising to 42.5. And I remember thinking, I think that's not a bad deal. And Twitter was just laughing at Forest, laughing at them for this drastic overpay. Well, no one's laughing now, because like you said, middle of that first season, he really found a groove and started to play really well. Last season, he was fantastic. And he started this season well as well. And like, what I like about him, as you said, that there's a natural leadership with him. He wants to put that team on his back. He wants to carry them. Now, at times it can become a little bit hero bally, but he's still only 24. And I think as he gains more trust and understanding with Elanga and with Hudson-Odoi and realizes that these two guys are really, really good as well, you can share the load with them, I do think that'll benefit him. But I watch him play, and from a creative passing point, now I don't mean chance creation, I mean the inventiveness of how he can get the ball from himself to somebody else. I don't think there's many that match him in the league. Like, he has every type of inventive pass you could imagine. Little scooped passes outside of the foot, chipped balls into the corner. Like, everything you're looking for, this kid has. And the more he gets the responsibility of being that creative hub, I think the more we'll see from him. And I think he fully warranted his England call-up and his England cap. Was absolutely delighted to see him get his cap. I think this is a player that the top clubs are going to be looking at next summer. I really do. If he has a good year, I think there's going to be a big money move coming in for him. I just hope it's the right move. Like, I think Newcastle, for example, will be the wrong move for him. So I don't think Newcastle
for Gibbs-White.
For Gibbs-White, I don't think that's the right move for Gibbs-White. For Elanga, I love it. For Gibbs-White, I don't. I don't think Eddie Howe's style suits him. I'd hate if he went to Chelsea or somewhere, because he'll just get lost in the shuffle.
Thing is, if Forest progress this season with, let's say, in line with what this team, this 11, the attack, looks like it's capable of. Let's say Sells outperform, same way as Jose Sa did a couple of years ago, right? 13th, 12th, something like that. Would you say that would be a reasonable, really good season stroke ceiling for them?
I would say this season that would represent a very good season for them. When you consider last year they finished 17th, and the year before they finished 16th. I think if they could get, what I would say is if they get to a place where with 5-6 weeks left in the season, they're safe and don't need to worry about relegation, that's significant progress for them.
So this is my point, right? If let's say they do, let's say the centre-backs and the attacking mids max out their seasons, they perform as well as they can, and basically between that half team, that takes Forest to 12th, right? We've already said several times, like at the minute in the Premier League, top 7 is basically done. Top 8 potentially as well if Brighton are very, very good. That could be done. Nobody can touch that kind of core top third of the league, which means 9th, 10th and 11th are the only other clubs that he could go to who finish better than where he is right now. Now, if he's not going to go to one of those very top clubs, Champions League chasing clubs, is anywhere else a better move than just staying at Forest?
I don't know. Like, I think if you could get 12 and sit down with him, Elanga, Danilo, Murillo, Hudson-Odoi, and whoever else you view as, you know, a core starter, Milinkovic obviously will be one, and say to him, look, let's run this back one more year and let's have a crack at Europe. Now, we might not get there, but let's have a real crack at trying to get into the Conference League. Because like there's obviously the big six. There's Villa and there's Newcastle, who've kind of propelled themselves into that in recent years. You mentioned Brighton. There's also West Ham. That's a 10-team group that kind of feel like they could lock up the top half.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.